Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. I'm so glad to be back with you here on Wednesday, December 13th. There's a lot of news to get into, but I'll start with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So good to be back with you here on Wednesday. I always start by saying thank you so much to the people supporting this channel, my monthly donators, people who donate here and there. Every single dollar is so appreciated. It makes this channel happen. And I, of course, have to say thank you to my sponsor, C60evo.com. So C60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. It's the holiday season. This is a small company out of Houston, Texas, and they do incredible, the highest quality. They call it ESS 60 because it's 100% pure carbon 60. That is, of course, one of the major fighters fighting the crud, fighting the garbage of the big pharma bioweapons that is invading our DNA and our bloodstream, and it helps to collect it and flush it out through your mitochondria right into your DNA level. Awesome for protection against 5G, against inflammation. Awesome for workouts like this, the MCT oil, which is so amazing. It is, of course, carbon 60 in coconut oil, 100% pure to be MCT oil for your workouts to totally just rejuvenate you after or before your workouts, get you ready. All of it. And they're doing Christmas specials. If you go to that link I just said, people who subscribe to the channel, and meaning that they're monthly donors, get 15% off with a separate code, separate link sent to you. And I just want to mention the facial serum, because the facial serum is just so good. It helps to relieve or to get rid of sunspots, this sort of thing, but it really helps the skin protection from the geoengineering and what's going on with the 5G. So check that out, c60evo.com/YAFTV. YAFTV is the code for 10% off, and below for 15% off for people who support the channel. Okay, and also I give away 2 bottles of the C60 capsules every month because they allow me to. C60evo.com, the capsules, I love them because they're in gel caps, and so you take the C60 and it's digested with some protein, and it might go down a little bit easier for some people. Okay, so let's move on. It is the Christmas season. There's so much news I'm going to cover here. A lot of it is economic warfare being targeted towards the American people. Coming up really to a head here, I think they're going to kind of surprise us over the Christmas season. And of course, I say Merry Christmas to everybody watching this video. Merry Christmas. I pray that yours is beautiful with your family and friends now than more than ever, making it a spiritual focused holiday, so that we can make ourselves be the God's players. I am ready player number 1 for God in the fight against Satan that is going on right now, massively being rolled out. We'll see it in Iowa with the Baphomet Temple of Satan statue. All of this we're going to cover. But there's a lot of economic news we're going to get into too. But I wanted to say a couple things. I think during the holidays it would be great to support the people who are in prison in the DC gulag, even though they're spread out across the United States, federal prisons, all of it. But if you go to sponsorj6.com, you can help put some money into the commissaries of the J6ers who have been who are political prisoners right now in this, takeover of the United States of America. Go to sponsorj6.com and you can help them out. So get their commissary, just a little up for the holidays. That would be great. And so I'm going to say also that we have Trump in Iowa today. Basically a caucus event, and this is very interesting because the caucus starts in about a month, a couple days, beyond that. in mid-January in Iowa. And of course, we have the Baphomet Temple of Satan, the Satanic Temple set up there in the Capitol there in Des Moines, Iowa. And of course, there's been a huge rollout of protests against this. And so I guess we'll just jump in there. I want to say just about Trump in Iowa. You know, they've been pushing, we're going to talk about the Biden impeachment and what's going on there with the vote. It wasn't finished by the time I'm starting this video, but Mike Johnson says we have the votes for the impeachment inquiry. It's still not an impeachment, it's just an inquiry. Listening to them today, I suffered through it, and it was brutal. Just massive lies from the Democrat side, just saying, we have zero evidence that anything is going on in this Biden probe with the Biden crime family. There's no evidence, and all the GOP side did was expose tons of evidence of all of the pay-for-play through 20 shell companies, through multiple fraudulent names that Biden used in the communications, 10% to the big guy every time through every deal that was made, all of it laid out really clearly, not exuberantly. It could have been a little more. We could have used a little Matt and Getz kind of style, just energy in what happened today in Congress. But of course, we had Hunter show up outside because they wanted him to. They subpoenaed him to give testimony in a skiff, in a private testimony, because they want to get to the real stuff. And when you're outside the skiff and you're in these testimonies, they don't hold up. There's not the real scrutiny that goes on. So they had subpoenaed him, Hunter Biden, to be in the skiff to give the private testimony. And of course, we know that Hunter's plea deal was thrown out. His multiple massive tax evasion crimes, all of it coming out, it being paid for by multiple people. It all came out in the testimony today in Congress on the impeachment vote. And so I don't have the numbers here at the end, but creepy and gross is that we have Speaker Mike Johnson, meeting today with Paul Ryan. So Mike Johnson has lunch with Paul Ryan, the Bushite, right? So they're pushing Trump towards Nikki Haley for a VP. MTG has come out and said, there'll be a MAGA revolt if you ever try to do a Nikki Haley VP. Don Jr. has come out and said there'll never be a Nikki Haley VP. But we get Mike Johnson meeting with Paul Ryan, the giant Bushite, controlled by 322, the Skull and Bones, the whole crime family of the Bushes making their massive billions out of Nazi Germany. Paul Ryan, their operative, Pence, their operative, Nikki Haley, their operative, and pushing this that Trump should have Nikki Haley. And of course, if that happens, we're all lost, right? So we're all lost if he would ever choose Nikki Haley, but I don't think that will happen. What we see in Iowa today is massive lines all around this area where they're doing this caucus event, where they're organizing citizens to get involved, to do the canvassing, to do everything before the Iowa caucus. And of course, what do we have standing in between them, or attempting to, is the Baphomet statue happening there in the Iowa Capitol in Des Moines, where they have set up a ritual, okay, it is a ritual, to have Baphomet, with the Temple of Satan, incredible, okay, put in there to basically say, we're setting up an energetic interrupt into Iowa for the caucus, all right? They did this specifically to be put up there during the holy holidays of Christianity, to have this Baphomet satanic symbol in the Iowa Capitol building. And you can't believe it. It's such crazy world. You can't believe it. Oh, we have Baphomet in the Capitol building. Well, this has been making their rounds. The Satanic Temple. This isn't a grassroots crowd. This is a globalist funded and run satanic crowd, setting up satanic rituals to impede the progress of humanity, to impede the freedom, the Christ light, everything we're doing. And so going on there in Iowa, while Trump has this great event today for organizing people, is this, of course, this satanic ritual to Baphomet going on in the Capitol building. And while we have Kim Reynolds, the governor of Iowa, coming out and saying this is objectionable, but it is free speech, we just need more free speech. And then we have DeSantis coming out and saying, oh yeah, I defend Kim Reynolds because she endorsed Ron DeSantis, coming out and saying, oh yeah, it's cool that she's supporting free speech there. No. This is a ritual being held in the Capitol building in Iowa against Donald Trump, against the freedom of humanity, the freedom of Americans. And we need to act out here. And I'm going to basically give you ways to do that right now, which is we need to call Kim Reynolds. And I would also say call AG Brenna Bird and make your views known. Brenna Bird has endorsed Trump. She's the AG of Iowa. And so what we get here is a way to call in, call Kim Reynolds' office there, Governor Kim Reynolds. Call her at 515-281-5211, especially if you live in Iowa, 515-281-5211. Call the office and say you protest there being a satanic display in the Capitol building. There are many places for free speech, and free speech should be everywhere, but this isn't speech. This is a temple, a ritual, a satanic situation being set up in a public place. It has nothing to do with free speech. And so go ahead and give her a call, 515-281-5211. And then if you want to call Brenna Bird and support her, she's doing everything for Trump in Iowa with the caucuses, organizing. You can find out how to be part of that organizing. Go to 515-281-5164 and say you support Brenna Bird, AG Brenna Bird, and you want her to help remove the satanic ritual that is holding energy on a demonic level, okay, within the Capitol, everything to do with the caucus. And people need to understand that energy is absolutely supreme. When there's an invocation of Satan going on in your public office, in your Capitol building, you have every right to protest that and to say that it is wrong. And of course, this gets to the larger issue of America repenting, America as a prodigal nation, what it means to repent, right? And as soon as you repent, as soon as you say, please, Jesus, I repent for my sins. Forgive me. I want to be redeemed. Then we have unstoppable, incredible Christ-like, Christ energy, the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit coming in to actually feed, spiritually feed the army for God in order to fight for this republic. And so that's it about the Baphomet a situation there in Iowa in the Capitol building. It's disturbing, and we go on from there because there's so many things that are squirrely, Antichrist connected to do with all this, and we're going to talk about it. But other things I want you to do, go to fireronna.com, fireronna.com. Ronna McDaniels, of course, the cousin or the nephew, the niece of Mitt Romney. Fire her from the RNC. We now had recently, in the last couple days, we had the Youth Advisory Council of the RNC just literally resign and quit, saying, Ronna, this is a bunch of baloney. This is just operating as a money-grabbing scam. We're not giving anybody guidance in this Youth Advisory Council through the RNC. It's totally for show. We're not recruiting. We're not doing anything. We're not giving any funds to actually do anything. As opposed, so go to fireronna.com, sign the petition. Let's get rid of Ronna McDaniel at the RNC. And, I will say maybe juxtapose this to America Fest or AmFest going on this weekend, starting on the 16th, 16th to the 19th, I believe, in Phoenix, Arizona, where you can go to America Fest and you have hundreds of vendors and and political action committees, not PACs, but I mean local grassroots people getting together, as well as first grade patriots getting out there, everybody sharing information, news, organizing, doing all of that. That's going on in Phoenix, Arizona. You can go to amfest.com. I think if you use the code word war room, you'll get some money off there. But the tickets are already pretty cheap if you can afford to do that. And so check it out, amfest.com. Okay. And so moving on from there, we're going to get into the next. I'm going to get into all the stuff to do with the enormous economic hit job that's coming towards us, and is already happening, but we just don't know it yet. But I want to talk about one more really, really important thing of activism that needs to happen, which is that there is the DEFUND Act, And so I'm going to move to that for a second because we need to get this done. So the DEFUND Act. This is James Rogowski always doing the huge, enormous heavy lifting to get people knowing what's going on with the WHO treaty, the UN stuff, all of it. But the DEFUND Act is let me get you the wording on it. The DEFUND Act, okay, this is brought forth both by the House of Representatives and the Senate. And so what it is HR 6645 and the Senate Bill 3428. And this is the DEFUND Act. It's an acronym which actually stands for Disengaging Entirely from the UN Debacle, the UN Debacle Act. Disengaging entirely from the UN Debacle Act. And that's kind of unfortunate, not the best, naming of a bill, but the acronym they wanted was DEFUND. Defund the UN, defund WHO, and everything to do with treaties and programs that is connected to that. And defund it, make it illegal. And we need your participation to get out there and sign letters, send emails, make phone calls to these people. And so, I mean, to your senator, your representative, telling them we need this done. And the way to do so, of course, is 202-225-3121 for the House, and 202-224-3121 for the Senate. Call your representative or your senator and tell them we need the DEFUND Act in the House and Senate to pass immediately, because basically on December 1st, trying to resist the WHO pandemic treaty expired. Okay, kind of crickets, right? You're not hearing this on any mainstream news or whatever, barely even on alternative news. But the reality is we need to defeat the WHO and the UN in the United States and remove ourselves. And Trump, of course, was making great strides towards that, but we need this to happen. And so you can go to stoptheglobalagenda.com, stoptheglobalagenda.com, where they have it all set up where you can send a letter or make a phone call to every representative, every senator, and we can cut off the Hydra's head here with the UN if we can get this DEFUND Act through the House and Senate. And so, what I also want to give your heads up to is that okay, so you can customize your email as you wish if you go to stoptheglobalagenda.com. And again, support James Rogowski. He does great work. James Rogowski, I'll link it below, .substack.com. Doing so much heavy lifting here for getting Americans to sign these petitions and also to send these emails and pressure Congress and Senate to pass the DEFUND Acts. And so if you go to the stoptheglobalagenda.com, you'll get a suggested script for the phone call if you want to call the House or Senate. And you can adapt that as you want. But one thing that I love is they have an expedited link to contact all 100 U.S. senators. They have an expedited link where you can go and join that, and you can have your letter go to all 100 senators. That will be linked below to do with stoptheglobalagenda.com. And so there's that. And so let's move into some of the meat of the video here at 20 minutes. But we're going to get into a couple things. And I think, we have the Biden impeachment. Like I said, Hunter Biden doing his little presser. Don't know yet. Will it go through? That's all. It's kind of smoke and mirrors there, because we already know they're going to pull Biden. Will they get jail time? Will they pay for their crimes? We don't know. But I think there's a couple things we need to understand. Okay, when we have Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, coming out this morning and saying, "Hey, if we can't get the funding for the Ukraine war, and if things escalate, and if there happens to be an event, okay, involving NATO countries, then I will absolutely have to declare emergency powers." Okay, to have there be basically what is the takeover of Germany under emergency powers to enact a war basically with Russia. This is Olaf Scholz, and this has comes on the legs of Zelensky there in front of on Fox News last night, in his wicked high on methamphetamines or whatever he's on. Okay, basically saying to the American people, you should give up your roads. You should give up your everything to defend Ukraine. You should give all of your money to Ukraine. There should be no building of any infrastructure in the United States. You must fund our pensions. I mean, lit up like a Christmas tree. This guy was crazy town. And we already had Biden still basically go to the, with Zelensky, finally for the one time of all time wearing a suit and tie, to the military college there, and basically saying, we're stealing $200 million. If we can't get, Congress to give us our $61 billion that we want more for Ukraine to money launder, to basically come back and harm Americans, we're stealing at least $200 million. We're just going to take it right now out of the coffers out of the military, okay, for our own basically what is in reserve for building our own munitions, etc. here in the country. They just stole it outright from the military. And so there's that. I did want to mention one thing before I move on into the financial news. And this is a huge win, not massive in the scale of things, but Estonia had notified the WHO on November 28th or 25th, I think the 25th, that it has rejected the pandemic treaty and amendments. So this is huge with what I was just saying a few minutes ago. Estonia, which is interesting because they consider themselves a global country, the first e-commerce country. Everything is pretty much digital ID there already for everybody in Estonia. So interesting that they came out against the UN and the WHO, and their parliament rejected the pandemic treaty and the amendments. Okay, they beat the December 1st deadline. We can't beat it here in the U.S. but Estonia can do it, even though they're super involved in massive digital society there, even with people getting injected with chips and everything to be able to use their bodies as their digital ID. Well, they basically came out and said Estonia does not consent, okay, to international health regulations and the pandemic treaty and amendments. They said that they reject the implementation of forcing measures, and go to expose-news.com, expose-news, it'll link it below in this video. Support them. They're doing great work reporting these things, various parts of the world, and they need your support. But it was the Estonia European Affairs Committee. Estonia European Affairs Committee, awesome job, where they reversed the decision back from March of last year, where they were saying they're going to go ahead with the treaty. Now they've reversed it, and Estonia is out. Okay, so that's great, right? That's good news. And we love good news. We need good news. And we see that a country can say no to the WHO. So our DEFUND Act can also say no to the WHO. Okay. So let's get into some of this stuff around the financial stuff, because it's kind of major. Well, COP28 is, winding down, right? And you get your loss and damage fund that Biden had okayed $3 billion from our U.S. taxpayer dollars to go into this loss and damage fund of COP28 to go into the global taxing of everybody around the world, which is completely illegal, and funding a global government for, Kristalina Georgieva out of IMF. Well, in the United States, what we're having, of course, is our credit, our debt is coming to a massive tipping point. And I want to, start with, I'm going to get into Moore versus the U.S., Moore versus the U.S. This is a Supreme Court case dealing with constitutionality of law to do with paper profits, which the real reason for the Biden IRS army is to go after non-existing profits, but profits on paper, said to have happened through people's pension funds or their stock portfolio, etc., where the companies should have been making these profits. They didn't realize into becoming profits for the individual, but people are getting taxed on them anyway. And this gets into Moore versus the U.S. But before I get into that, I want to get into what is Steve Quayle's warning, having to do with this credit card shakedown that's about to happen. And what Stephen Quayle is saying, and go to stevequayle.com, check out his, I'll link, video links below about this subject. But the reality is we get this situation where what Steve Quayle is saying and others, multiple economists, people, watchdogs on this, is that there is now a chain reaction in the credit card system. It just reached over $1 trillion in credit card debt that Americans have now. We have a poll coming out recently that said that there's 60% of Americans are living at the paycheck to paycheck level, subsistence level living, 60%, and most of those are using their credit cards to make ends meet. And what's happening now this week, as we approach this 12/23, when the U.S. debt interest payments are due, U.S. debt, 34 trillion, something crazy. Just, when the next rollover of the last 90 days, another $1 trillion. Well, what we get here is, out of left field, there's going to be maybe a huge awakening for people dealing with credit card debt, which is that across the United States, we're going to have banks rewriting the terms and conditions of your credit card agreements. And they're doing this, you might get an email sent to you, update to your terms and conditions of your credit card, but it's pretty nefarious what's in those terms and conditions. And this has to do with the top 6 banks, your Bank of America, your Chase, your Wells Fargo, all of these criminal banks. They're sending out notification for terms of use happening. So check that out. Make sure you're up to date, because of this $1 trillion and because they know that there's a imminent collapse, and also the fact that they want to capture people's assets per the globalist mandate, that there will be this Bank of International Settlements unified programmable ledger that I've been talking about now for many months, that they're going to tokenize all the assets owned by everybody in the world. And here with the credit card debt, what they're saying basically is that the terms are going to change on your credit cards. They're not going to have to fulfill their obligations per the terms that you already agreed to. And what's coming is that they're going to cut credit. basically, to the majority of the users. The 60% of people who are on subsistence level, paycheck to paycheck living, and probably don't anymore after all the massive 20% inflation, after all the incredible shutdown of the economy and the hardship. They probably don't have the best credit scores anymore. They're not doing as good because they're having to use their credit cards to pay for their monthly living. And what they're saying is, you know what, we're just going to cut off your credit cards. And this is for entertainment purposes only. This is information I'm getting through Steve Quayle and others, which I'll mention soon. But that they're going to cut off your credit, all right, and say, you know what, it looks like you're upside down. Everything we have about your financials says that you're not able to keep taking out more credit on these credit cards. And in fact, we don't think you're going to be able to pay them back. Okay, now that we have $1 trillion in credit card debt, we don't think you're going to be able to pay it back based on predictions in our new user agreement. And so we're cutting your credit. So everybody needs to really look into this with your own credit card companies, with your own banking. Basically that there's a lot going on with these top banks. I'd say go to your credit union immediately. Go to your local credit union, open up an account immediately so that you can bank, okay, in a credit union that is funding local investment, local prosperity. Because these mega banks that if you're still in them, which I hope you aren't because it's just giving money to the beast, the cartel Babylon. But if you have been, it might come back to bite you, okay, with them saying, we're going to shut down your credit line. Okay, you're out. You have to pay us what you owe us, but we're extending you no more credit and it's being shut down. There's a lot of talk about being huge blocking of online transfers of money, blocking, liquidity measures, people trying to take out large sums of money. And, this could really affect an enormous amount of people if they cut their credit off, okay, and just say, pay us what you owe us. And this could also come down if there is, we have this situation where the U.S. has to, pay the interest. It's like 30, on 34 trillion in debt. They have to pay their interest by the, in the next couple of weeks. If they're not able to meet that interest, they could declare force majeure, where basically it just means I can't pay the debt. If that happens, that would be massive amounts of inflation immediately, like Zimbabwe-style level, Venezuela-style levels of inflation. But basically, the thing to understand here is that if there is a, massive bank shutdown of credit cards, okay, credit loans. They could also, looking into the assets of people who have massive credit card debt, choose to, if they're the same banks, they could choose to make your mortgage be called due without warning. And I don't say this lightly. I'm not trying to inflame or create mayhem. I'm saying this has been the plan all the time. The breakdown of force inflation, completely put everybody into debt, shut down everyone's businesses, and then, because you have your mortgage, say, your assets are connected to your debt, and we're going to pull your mortgage, and this is going to, of course, cause massive asset seizure, and a huge, basically decommunization of our country. And so I want to, this is kind of the Hunger Games world we're talking about. They're trying to create a serf class. They want to steal all the assets of everybody with, if it's not eminent domain through the climate crap and the carbon capture pipelines and all that, it's actually using the IRS army that was created by Joe Biden to create this going after your assets, your real assets, after shutting down your businesses with the bioweapon crap, getting everybody super financially strapped, and the only thing you have might be your house or your car. Maybe it's loaned out, it's taxed, you've got it like using as leverage, it's an asset, and they're like, well, no, now we're pulling the credit, we're pulling the loan, you have to pay. And that's the warning from Steve Quayle, that this could be happening. And I want to go on from there to talk about another thing that Peter Schiff is bringing to everybody's attention, which is the IRS tax on paper gains. Okay, paper gains. And this comes out with Moore versus the U.S. Moore versus the U.S. And this is a Supreme Court case that's going on to do with this family, the Moores, who basically were charged $14,000 by the IRS to do with their investment portfolio on income that they never earned. But the IRS determined that those corporations, okay, are worth this much on paper, and it's called basically paper profits, okay, on investments held by Americans that were never paid to the Americans, okay. They're basically challenging, they're using a law that Trump put in 2017, which was basically to go after corporations and individuals making huge amounts of money overseas, to say, we are going to come after your assets, you're not reporting them, and we're going to come after them because you're using your wealth to destroy this country. Well, the Biden administration has weaponed this with their IRS army, and they're coming after this in this Moore versus U.S. is fighting it. It's going to be important in the Supreme Court. I will link it below, especially going to be active or operational by June of next year, and it could really be used for confiscation of American assets by by tax IRS attacks and taxing taxpayers on money they never actually got. Okay, but because the corporations that made all this money but never paid it out, okay, under all this ESG new laws, everything's being funneled in different directions. It's not going to the pensioners. It's not going to the stockholders. This is what's going on. And so unrealized profits from outside the United States and unrealized gains are being basically estimated by the IRS and going after families that have stock options and other assets. And what they're saying is they can redefine income on unrealized inflationary gains as taxable income. This will affect people's houses, your land and property, your stocks. If their paper value, if they say what it is worth more than you actually ever put into it or have access to in any liquidity about your assets, they can go and tax you on gains that you've never gotten anything for. Usually if we sell something, okay, that is income, okay, that is capital gains because you sold something that you owned and then you sold it, okay, and there's that capital gains tax. Well, you sold it, but you get taxed on what it was worth then versus what it's worth now. Well, now they're saying, no, you're going to pay taxes now on capital gains that you haven't even sold anything. You're just holding it. Like say you're holding gold because it's an investment and you want it to increase and that's why you're investing. They're saying, no. You're going to have to pay yearly taxes on that thing you already bought, okay, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You have to pay taxes on it even though you aren't selling it, just as you're holding it. This is a total communist takeover seizure, attempted seizure, asset seizure in the United States. And Peter Schiff is doing great heavy lifting on this. I'll link him below. And Mike Adams did a great report with some of his great information. So you get the government printing trillions and trillions of dollars, right? That is completely stealing our purchasing power because it's just deflating the currency. But they're using those fake dollars to go and buy real assets, right? And so our dollars get worth less. And our BlackRock uses those printed dollars to go and buy up 1 million houses they bought in the last few years. $1 million, 1 million homes in the United States, and they're buying them above market value, and then they're using that to of course inflate the housing costs, the property costs in these areas, so that people who are local, who live there forever, can't afford to buy property. They're X'd out of being able to get a home, even to rent a home in these areas, because there's been this fake inflationary cost of housing in these areas where BlackRock has bought them all up and sold many of them, I would say in the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, to foreign nationals coming to occupy those homes in some of the best areas of the United States. But they're holding about 1 million homes. And what they're doing is trying to force them to sell these homes. This is a bill coming out of Oregon by Jeff Merkley, Democrat out of Oregon, basically saying that homes owned by hedge funds like BlackRock will be forced to be sold, okay, in the next 10 years. They'll have to send 100,000 of these per year in their holdings to sell 100,000 every year for the next 10 years. And this is just a plan to basically follow up on what is going on in the White House Office for New Americans, okay, where there's going to be a plan for tons of government money to go into literally having the invasion migration become homeowners. All right, so it's not enough that Dick Durbin wants them in the military, getting AK-15s or whatever, AR-15s to become part of our military and police force. No. The House on New the Office on New Americans, it wants them to be homeowners, and the government's going to pay for it. It's like a HUD scam, Valerie Jarrett style out of Chicago on steroids, that they're going to basically make this million homes will be part of the invasion migration home ownership plan. And that's what's going on. It's just a stealing of assets from Americans, impoverishing Americans, stealing them by the federal government and global corporations, institutions, hedge funds, BlackRock, Vanguard, the bigs, to steal all this property, increase property prices, falsely, and then now with the credit collapse, you're going to have people who already are in these banks where they do your social credit score system, what is it called? Syncope Bank, or I can't remember, but there's all these different MasterCard related banks that are already involved in this, Bank of America hugely, that already have a social credit score system on you. And when they look at your performance, with your credit, are your credit cards maxed out? Plus you have a mortgage. Oh, guess what? We're in this massive breakdown. Okay, with the trillions that are due, and we can't. We're not going to honor our former terms and conditions. We're creating new terms and conditions, both in the banks and in the credit cards, to have the opportunity to possibly come after your house and close down your credit, okay, on these credit lines. So this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm just relating back to you what I have heard, and I'm going to link everything I can below. I think it's really important to understand and get ready that we're dealing with a system where the globalists want to steal everything from Americans. They want to steal our property, steal our assets, shut down our ability to make money, and also, of course, collapse our currency. And one thing I will mention here on the way out at 43 minutes is that, we're trying to build this parallel economy and have a way to engage with each other on a currency level. I have nothing to do with this, but I did watch a great interview, and I'll link it below, of Mike Adams with the fellow who does what is called verifiedgoldbacks.com, verifiedgoldbacks.com. And this is basically printed, cloth dollars that have gold imbued into them. And Mike Adams of naturalnews.com, the great Mike Adams, he's done with his full spectrum lab, has found that these goldbacks out of verifiedgoldbacks.com have more gold than actually what is supposed to be in each of their gold backs, because they want to make sure that everybody feels completely contented by, or if they test it wrongly, or aren't able to do correct testing, that they will still come out on top of what is the gold infused into these gold backs. So it's a gold back currency infused into, cloth paper bill that we could be using with each other. And I think it's a great start, or, I think it's a great way to focus a parallel economy with these gold backs, because they can be absolutely traded as currency. They're completely legal. 99.99% gold, according to the test that Mike Adams did. And again, verifiedgoldbacks.com. Check them out, because I think, and these are, 24 karat based gold, okay, gold backs. So I think that's a really cool way to go, looking for a parallel economy system where we can buy these gold backs and use them as currency with each other in the times coming forward. Because with this collapse, of course, we're going to have gold, silver, other precious metals, and Bitcoin and some crypto go skyrocketing if they collapse the credit. And as Steve Quayle reminded us, we have Operation Sandman that's been in play for over a decade. The plan with 130 countries, mostly Middle East and others, to collapse the dollar by suddenly then refusing to use dollars for trade. And this is all part of a globalist operation to when the plan for the fiat currency of the dollar was supposed to come to an end, which is rapidly approaching. There would be, of course, everybody would start refusing to use dollars for commerce at all whatsoever. And, we see this predictive programming coming, where there is the collapse of economy, there is the collapse of the internet, where we have the cyber polygon being predictively programmed through movies. Everybody's been talking about the Netflix thing with Leave the World Behind, Julia Roberts, the Obamas, Michelle and Barack Obama, producing this movie about the destruction of America. So we have a former president. Okay, it's so funny, like Trump constantly under fire. Oh, new Supreme Court decisions today. All kinds of things going on. Oh, Trump, he tried to, defeat an election, complete baloney. But you have an ex-president, Obama, coming out with a movie that he produced, okay, based on a book by, in 2021. Let me see if I can find it. But we get this situation where we actually have a president who puts out a production about America being destroyed by a cyber polygon experience, where the entire grid goes down through attack on the digital grid, the internet grid. But basically, it runs everything. It runs our water, it runs our electric, it runs our infrastructure, it runs everything. And we have our lovely Barack Obama, the treasonous president, for entertainment purposes only, putting out a movie saying that expect a cyber polygon, expect the grid to go down, and when it does, there'll be a race war. There'll be people hating on each other, and there's a prepper involved there. I think it's Kevin Bacon who plays the role. I haven't watched it yet, but everything I've gleaned is that, do people question that an ex-president is producing a movie about the destruction of America with a huge cyber polygon collapse? How interesting that's not being talked about. Why would a former president put out a movie like this just to make money? No. If we look at the movie Golda that just came out last August, right? Golda, that was about Golda Meir, Helen Mirren playing Golda Meir, about the Yom Kippur War, right? In 1973, Henry Kissinger, played by Liv Schreiber. That was 6 weeks before October 7th happened, right? And the Hamas stage event. And now today, the reports come out, they're flushing seawater into the tunnels. That'll destroy all the evidence. That's salt, right? That'll destroy all the evidence. But they're flushing seawater into the tunnels under Hamas. All the deaths, all the staged intelligence events. And now that was, Helen Mirren, Liv Schreiber doing their, we're going for an Oscar type roles on the, what is the Yom Kippur War, Redux, right? And now we get Barack Obama's film, Leave the World Behind, and we have to wonder: is there a 6-week, predictive programming here, like with Golda? Is there a 6-week period where we're supposed to wait for that? Mid-January when the caucus in Iowa starts and we start the whole 2024 election. Is this a predictive programming for Cyber Polygon in early January? You have to wonder, or mid-January, you kind of have to wonder, because it's pretty funky, that this comes out now, that it's done by Obama, who funded massive amounts of money going into munitions sites across the country. A lot of talk about that by Steve Quayle, that, the invasion migration, the UN calls them agents of change, right? These migrants, they're called agents of change in the IOM and the International Organization on Migration out of the UN, who wrote the book, it's a free download, you can get it for free, called Remaking the World, the Age of Global Enlightenment, right? Your enlightened despots that I've been talking about in my videos for a while. They get to decide what is happiness for you, these enlightened despots, whether it's, Frederick the Great, back in Prussia, or his cousin King George III that we fought in the Revolutionary War. These enlightened despots who are completely deranged morally. They write this book. This is Ursula von der Leyen. This is Mike Dukakis out of the Boston Global Forum. This book, Remaking the World, the Age of Global Enlightenment, right? On how they're going to harness the AI and blockchain to create the AI World Society, AIWS, where every global citizen, right, gets a chance to create value through the AI blockchain, right? This is your patents with the 060606, the Bill Gates patent for how, when you take part in the metaverse or in the production of energy for the grid, for the AI digital grid, you'll create value for your social credit score. They want to make that possible for you, And so, this is what we need to understand. When we look at Leave the World Behind, the book by Rumaan Alam, the 2020 novel, they completely changed it. They changed the ending. They changed the script. They said that the Obamas had everything to do with changing the emphasis and the script to make it more blockbuster and to make us, more socially engineered. We don't want it all gloom and doom. We want to, get everybody psyched, for this thing that's coming, which is going to shut down our normal ways of living. And then, of course, there's another movie coming out too called Civil War. Civil War is interesting. This is coming out in February of 24. And let me see if I can find who did that. Definitely like a guy, Alex Garland. He did movies like Annihilation, Ex Machina, all these kind of dystopian technology movies. And coming out in February 2024, predictive programming, social engineering. If we're still, operational by then, Civil War is the name of the new movie with total predictive programming, where, of course, it's a MAGA Christian nationalist right that is, the recession, because, Texit is now on the ballot for 2024, Texit in Texas, to secede from the U.S. out of Texas. Well, basically, the Texans and the rural Californians, they are, at war with federal, Democratic USA. And that's also being completely pushed. So I might leave it there, folks. 54 minutes. There's so much more besides, take care of your financial situation. Check out these gold backs, verifiedgoldbacks.com, and basically just understand, okay, they're coming for a full financial collapse. And I'm not saying that to be demonstrative. Like, they've been planning this a long time. We all know that this is what they've been planning. The banks, if you're still working with the banksters, you're still working in the big banks, they're narrowing down the operations here. They're coming now for renewing their terms of service to basically give the reason why they're going to be able to shut down your credit if you're upside down in your finances, or actually not above board enough in your finances that they can basically terminate your credit line. For entertainment purposes only, of course. I'll link everything I can below. And of course, we look at Elon Musk and all the news around there of, put Alex Jones on, put Owen Schroyer on, everybody's back on X. And I for not ever will ever be trusting in Twitter or Elon Musk or X, because Elon Musk has made it very clear that he wants X to be the CBDC social credit score app. And it's the everything app, where it's a universal app for the universal programmable ledger for the CBDCs. And right now they might want people to be speaking freely, right? Because they are gathering up all the information. It's AI collected algorithms of everybody speaking everything they're saying on social media. X, all of the hoopla about, there's, these fake sites about what's going on X. No. They're just literally collecting all the information to create a social credit score for every single person on X. And it's going to come down to that universal ledger program by CBDCs for what you have the privilege to buy due to your adherence to the global world order. What is global taxation and a global government? So that's what's coming. Don't believe anything else around X, in my opinion. That is what I think, and I'm sticking to it. All right, folks. Again, Merry Christmas. Here it is on Wednesday the 13th. We're going to keep on being the people who. Jesus said nations will fight nations, right? And that we'll have strangers from without will be lifted high, and, those within will be laid low. But that's only because of the sign of what's coming. We are in biblical times, not much more than political times at this juncture. It's not that I don't believe we can't change the energy of what's happening here, but I think we know that, there's a collapse that's inevitable. But what we can be is we can be instruments. Okay, we can be instruments for Christ, for God, and we can do it in a joyful way, in a high vibration way. That literally, because the Holy Spirit can give us that, that incredible energy of God, we can really move our influence sphere higher and broader. During the Christmas season, we can uplift people, right? And we can do all the actions I talked about in this video and show our presence, show your presence to God, be active, be part of, be in the arena. And it gives that much more energy, that much more glory, okay, to the fight. Because we already know the outcome. We already know the position we hold. And if you don't know the position you hold, it's time to really focus in on your connection to Spirit, your connection to God. And, on this channel, Jesus Christ is a Savior that can really free us from our sin, seek redemption, and get in the mix, right? We need to be a prodigal nation. We need to rise up to the occasion and make humanity free again and make America free again. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. You are free. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you very soon.